I'd like to start with a very serious question right now, and directly to the business. So, is tequila your fuel for growth, according to your picture?
Tequila is my fuel for everything. This is filled with tequila. All I do is drink tequila all day and send weird emails to people. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I get yelled at.
On that one, okay, thank you very much. That's it. We have discovered the formula of success. Just don't repeat it too many times, right?
Yeah.
But very shortly, I'd like to also ask, what is plant-based business?
So, I mean, plant-based businesses are businesses that focus on either plant-based or vegan products, whether that is food related or technology related to, help food tech, clothing, fashion, cosmetics, cruelty-free, no animal testing. So, I mean, plant-based is pretty broad, I suppose. It doesn't necessarily need to be a food related thing. When people think of veganism, they think of food, but there's, the lifestyle behind it as well. So a couple examples that I'm investing in and working on here is, some dark kitchens, which are restaurants that aren't restaurants. They're kitchens that focus 100% on delivery. So I've invested in a plant-based sushi company here in Brazil, which we're about to open our second location in Sao Paulo. Building out a plant-based Mexican dark kitchen as well. Co-founder of a company. We're in the initial stages. We just raised our first round of investment to start the world's first plant-based crowdfunding equity platform. So it's obviously crowdfunding. People can go online and post whatever they want money for, but this is for equity. So people can go and invest and get shares of startups in the plant-based universe. So companies that are either working in food or tech or fashion or cosmetics or whatever it might be, but with that plant-based, cruelty-free background. So it's kind of broad, but the focus right now is Brazil, just because I'm here. I've been here for 10 years, but I've done consulting for some plant-based businesses all over the world. So it's mixing my professional expertise with my passion, so it makes it even more fulfilling.
Interesting. It seems like a new niche that actually freelancers also can look at, right? It's something that is growing at the moment and definitely worthwhile to explore. And you have lots of plans behind you, so I can understand.
Yeah, you could say that I've got a jungle behind me, so there's quite a few. I haven't stopped to count how many there are, but I think it would take a long time.
Cool. Well, all right. Let's get back to Neil Patel and my question. And actually,
Sure.
the first question I think when I see him and what he has done is that he has built his entire empire behind his name, his
Yeah.
name brand, right? And I know lots of freelancers and myself including was questioning at the start of this journey, okay, should I run my business under my own name or should I actually go with the company name? What's your take on that based on your experience with him and with your own businesses too?
I mean, I think it really depends on goals and what you want to do. I mean, if your goal is to build a large business and eventually sell it, it's probably better not to do it under your own name, because then your personal brand and your face and your name and you are always going to be attached. So, I mean, for Neil's case, I can't obviously speak 100% for him, but I've known him for many, many years. And I do know that, if he could go back, he wouldn't have done it the way he did it, just because he's building something much bigger than just his personal name. So that's why his business has even evolved over time from Neil Patel Digital to now NP Digital, just to kind of not disassociate himself, but not have that 100% connection to the single human, because then it kind of makes it so, let's just say whoever's on this call, I'm looking in the middle of my screen. Sophia Rodriguez is who I see in the middle of my screen. So like if she were to build a brand and a company after her name, and then it kind of got much bigger and started, expanding into different areas, she's going to be attached to that. So, I mean, that could be a good thing depending on your goals. If you want to just continue freelancing and consulting and advising or investing or whatever, that could be fine to just have your strong brand name. But if you're looking to, I guess, build an empire, like you mentioned with Neil, there are downsides. There's like anything, there's pros and cons. I mean, there's upsides to having a strong brand name because you can leverage that for easy connections, easy fundraising opportunities, easy deals. So I mean, there's pros and cons. So I think it really depends on each person and the not just the immediate goals, because thinking only in the short term is pretty dangerous in business, but medium to long term goals of what they're looking to do.
All right. I assume he started as a solo, probably, right? Since he started using his name.
Yeah, I mean, he started, so I mean, like neilpatel.com, which is, his blog, which is, really famous and gets over 20 million page views a month. I mean, that existed after he created that after he was already famous. I mean, he started building software companies when he was like 20. So, I mean, he started Kissmetrics, he started Crazy Egg. He started these companies when he was really, really young. I mean, he's still really young. He's younger than me. He's 35. So, he started doing it the other way, but then because he became a public persona, he started doing talks. He started, writing his own blogs on the side as well. First with Quick Sprout before he started neilpatel.com. He just started building the brand name with his personal name on the side, and then it kind of just like snowballed into this huge thing. But yeah, I really think it just depends on goals and desires for each person who's considering starting a personal brand.
Yeah, interesting. It actually replicates very well what our first keynote said. Andy Cummins, he also said he started speaking after he has built a career, and that really helped him to raise up the bar and find clients and grow business as
Sure.
well. But what has played the most crucial role in the growth, Neil Patel, if you can share?
Consistency, persistence, just and giving value, not asking for anything in return. I think that's like nowadays in like the social media universe, you're always seeing people pitching things as trying to make a transaction. So, give me your email and I'm gonna sell you a course at a discounted price, or give me your email and I'm gonna sell you an ebook at a discounted price, or whatever. What Neil did and has continued doing over all these years is just putting as much value out into the world as possible without asking for anything in return. And people constantly say to him, "Oh, I can't imagine like doing this and giving so much value and not asking for anything." And obviously he has ways to monetize it, but it's not direct monetization. He has the different agencies that help small businesses, large businesses grow the revenues through marketing. But I mean, he's always focused on just giving value. Gary Vaynerchuk is another great example of somebody who just puts out endless content without asking for anything in return. And when you do that, you gain authority, you gain trust. People expect quality from you because you're not asking for anything in return. A lot of the times, the people who are going out there and just trying to sell are selling garbage. And they're doing it because they know they can make quick cash, but it's not sustainable and it's not going to grow. It's not going to scale. So, for the people who truly want to build something big and thinking long term, you need to invest time and resources. And obviously, money is part of the resources part. The amount depends on each person and each company. But you want to invest in giving value because, we're in a global marketplace. You're competing with people all over the world. Like, I can't imagine how many countries are represented just on this call right now. So, I mean, you're competing on a global scale. So, if you're just asking and asking and asking, it's going to be really hard to get anything in return. But if you're giving and you're providing value and you're helping people without asking, eventually when you do ask or when you do present something that is, monetization on your part, it'll be easier to convert as opposed to just trying to get money in the beginning. You want to create value, and that's what Neil's really done over the years.
Oh wow, this is so fantastic actually what I hear, but it also goes kind of against this entire marketing principle, right? Like get people because you have to sell them something. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why people hate marketers, because that's like the marketing principle, like you said, and that's why people don't trust marketers, because marketers, not everyone obviously, but in general, are trying to figure out the sneakiest and creepiest and weirdest ways to just sell, when they'd be selling a lot more if they were just being honest from the beginning and being transparent and trying to help their target audience. I mean, if you're trying to help the people that you're trying to acquire as customers, then they're going to trust you. But if you just try and get them to buy from you at the very beginning, then it's complicated because they're not going to trust you. They're just going to see you as that sleazy marketer trying to make money instead of a savvy business person trying to help them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Building trust is so important. And folks, by the way, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I will make sure that we ask them. But I want to ask one question. We had a short discussion before, and you said that the team played a big role, of course. And is the team completely, I wanted to say plant-based, no, freelancer-based.
I wish. No, they're not all plant-based. Not yet. Maybe one day.
Okay. So
Are they all freelancers? No, they're not. I mean, it depends. It depends on which business you're looking at. So like with the agencies, with NP Digital, I mean, there is a team, a very large team of full-time salary people. But, when it comes to different brands and different projects, we use a lot of freelancers. So like when we expanded to Brazil, for example, it was me, 3 Brazilian co-founders, and Neil, starting very slowly. This is back in 2015 or around then, to just slowly translate and localize his content into Brazilian Portuguese. And to do that, we had to hire a huge team of translators, all freelancers. And then we had to hire, digital marketing professionals. We had to hire designers. We had to hire social media managers. We hired a lot of different people, but all freelancers. It was all contract workers because, I mean, especially here in Brazil, it's easier to do it that way. People prefer it. Actually, like people prefer to be contracted as an independent contractor. So people kind of lean toward that freelance lifestyle. But I mean, we did the same thing when we expanded to Latin America and Spanish. We had freelance translators and digital marketing specialists in Venezuela and Argentina and Mexico and Spain. The same thing when we expanded into Germany. We had German translators, and they were all freelancers. So, I mean, I can't even imagine how many freelancers over the years that I've hired for different projects related to that expansion. And even now with new projects, with freelancers, I see a difference when I hire a freelancer as opposed to hiring somebody full-time, because freelancers are typically, they grind harder and they manage their time better. So when it's somebody who's used to working, because I don't care when people do their work. If you want to do your work at 3 a.m, go for it. If you want to do it at 10 a.m, go for it. I don't care as long as you do it. So I mean, freelancers typically have that mindset, and they typically produce when they produce the best and when they're most productive. And because of that, they're more productive. If you hire somebody who's expecting that 9-to-5 lifestyle, maybe they're really slow and shitty after lunch, like I am. Like after lunch, I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit and be lazy for a couple hours. I'm just super unmotivated in the afternoon. But I wake up at 5 a.m. and I work really hard in the mornings, and then I work hard in the evening. So when you're a freelancer, and I've been freelancing since just out of college, like 16 years ago. So you have that ability to understand when you work the best and work the hardest and are most productive. And I would rather somebody who's extremely productive and only works 2 hours a day than somebody who's just dragging for the 9-to-5. So, I mean, I prefer the people who are used to that and have that time management skills and the self-awareness. That's one of my dogs saying hello. I have 3 dogs, so it might get barky. But yeah, I mean, that's why I think, when it comes to hiring, freelancers are they're more responsible with their time, which means they're more productive with their time from what I've seen.
I'll asking a question, maybe very quickly. How do you incentivize freelancers if you do?
By paying them well.
By paying them, exactly.
and not continuing to work with them if they don't produce. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's like anywhere. You incentivize them by treating them like they're a part of the project and like a part of the team. You don't want them to feel like they're just some random person, doing design for you in Thailand that you don't care about. You just ask for the work and you respect them. You pay them, what they deserve to be paid. You don't try and find the country in the world with the cheapest labor. You find the professional that's right for the project. You have open communication. You're transparent with them on both sides. And that's it. To me, I've worked with people who don't really speak the languages I speak, and it doesn't matter if that's not their job. If they're a translator and they don't speak the language, then of course there's an issue. But I don't need somebody to be fluent in English to communicate with me, or fluent in Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. if they're a designer, as long as they understand what I'm trying to get from them, and nowadays you can just put that into Google Translate, might not be the perfect translation, but to explain a project, it's good enough. So, I mean, as long as they're producing, they're going to get paid a good wage and they're going to get consistent work. So,
yeah. Well, talking about skills, by the way, since you're teaching MBA, have you noticed if there's a particular skill that absolutely necessary nowadays, or is there an issue that entrepreneurs are having that is actually very easy to solve, but they just don't see the way
totally.
out?
Yeah, it's impatience. It's not a skill, it's a mindset. People are not patient. People want results now. That's not how it works. People don't want to put in the work. People want to see growth quickly, which isn't realistic. So, to me, I don't, skills can be acquired quickly. There's a lot of amazing content online. There's a lot of amazing courses online where you can acquire a skill relatively quickly and put it into practice and improve over time. But it's the mindset that's the real problem, because you see all these people on social media posting pictures of fancy cars and private jets and bullshit like that, and they make it seem like the entrepreneur lifestyle is great when it's actually awful. Running businesses is not fun. It's hard work. It's tiring. Like, I'd rather be playing with my son than, putting out fires at 10 o'clock at night because somebody did something stupid, like on the other side of the world. Like, it's not easy. There's obviously upside to it and there's benefits to doing it. And that's why I do it. It's kind of an addiction, but it's hard. And I think too many people nowadays think entrepreneurship is sexy just because what they see on social media, when it's really not sexy. Because these entrepreneurs who are posting these photos, they don't post photos of them like crying at 2 a.m. because a deal fell through, or, freaking out because something isn't working, or because somebody on their team quit, or there's so many different things that happen that aren't, Instagrammable, that they're not sharing. And that is just, the mindset is what I think is throwing off the younger generations. And even, folks my age, I'm 38, and folks older than me, this constant flow of, hustler content and, this nonsense that you see online is making it so people don't have realistic expectations of what it takes to succeed in business or start their own businesses, because they're expecting results quickly. And if they don't see them quickly, they quit, or they try and start something else and they shift their focus, when what they were doing was right, but they were going in with the short-term mindset as opposed to the medium to long-term mindset. And they gave up on something that would have been beneficial to them, and then switch their focus and try something else for a few weeks. And they just keep doing that. They shift from content marketing, oh, it didn't work because I didn't get enough traffic, to social media, oh, I didn't get enough followers. And they shift to email marketing, oh, I don't have enough subscribers. So, I mean, it's just trying to understand what they're trying to do, figure out who they're trying to reach, and reach those people consistently by providing value to them. And people just don't want to do that. People want success handed to them without doing the work, and that's just not reality.
Yeah, quick wins indeed. We all want things to happen quickly.
Yeah, I want it, of course. But of course I want the businesses I'm investing into, exit and, have a huge return. And it'll probably happen eventually, but you got to go into it as a chess player with the chess mindset. You got to be thinking many, many, many moves ahead, and understand that in the beginning and in the short term and even the medium term, that it's not going to become the next big thing. I've consulted for, folks who are starting their own businesses that are they'll share their business plans, and they'll be like, oh, in 3 years, I want to be doing, 200-300 million a year in revenue. I'm like, focus on getting to the first million. You're already thinking about 300 million in revenue. That's really difficult. Very few businesses do that. People need to be realistic. People need to understand that the world is different in reality than it is on these influencer photos and videos.
Yeah. Well, talking about scaling, there's a great question from Meet, and he's asking how Neil Patel actually scaled the business, because when you use personal brand, customers expecting to have you on a forefront with the customer. And how do customers react if it's not him, but someone else is taking over?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And, we did it really slowly. I mean, there was a demand for an agency for many, many years. There's a demand for him to be consulting for companies for many, many years, and he didn't want to. He wanted to just focus on building his brand and putting content out and not, monetizing in different ways. But I think when you get to a certain point, I mean, there's kind of like that tipping point where you get big enough where they don't expect Neil to be on the sales call, or they don't expect, if you get in touch with VaynerMedia, they don't expect Gary to like answer and be like, "Oh, hey, it's me, Gary." Like it's different when you're small and you're getting started. And then once you scale enough to bring on a bigger team, then you just start making the right hires, and the right hires field those questions in those discovery calls. If you have the right salesperson who's, qualifying leads, that person is just going to make it clear on that first call with company ABC who gets in touch with you that, yes, this is Neil Patel Digital or whoever. I'm Bob and I'm going to help you, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's known. Nobody's getting in touch with Apple support expecting to speak to this, Tim Cook. So, I mean, there is like the point when you get big enough where you have the right people on board that have already done that. They've already, figured out from their years of experience as, an SDR, like a sales development representative or whatever, how to talk to people, how to qualify leads, how to close deals. So it's just about hiring the right people. I mean, that's something that I talk about all the time is, this is also built onto my last point about like influencers destroying the minds of, these younger generations, is that so many people think that they can just go and do everything. And that's ridiculous because there's a lot of stuff that's hard that you might not have experience at. And if you try and do everything, you're going to lose focus on the things that you're good at, and you're going to spread yourself too thin. You need to eventually hire. You need to eventually bring more people on board, either as partners or associates or freelancers or full-time workers that can do the shit you can't do. Because there's a ton of stuff I can't do that I don't want to do, that I refuse to do because it's not my skill set. So of course I don't want to do it, because if I'm doing it, I'm going to destroy the business. So I want the person who's most qualified to handle that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on that one, what it makes me think is that not every freelancer is a great business developer, right? We are professionals in what we do, but not necessarily we are capable of developing business. But it seems to me like, is this something that you can outsource to another freelancer, or is this the skills you have to learn?
I mean, I think it's good to have an understanding, a general understanding of the main parts of a business. You don't need to be an expert in everything. You can't be an expert in everything. I mean, there's things that Neil Patel isn't an expert in, or Gary Vaynerchuk isn't an expert in, and that's fine. Like, you don't need to be. The only people who expect that are the people who are trying to be that person. It's, nobody else is expecting, Janine Dumont or Frederick Daniels or whoever on this call to be an expert in everything. That's just unrealistic. I don't expect anyone to be an expert in anything. So, I mean, you can outsource. And if you build a good relationship with that person, whether it's a freelancer or a part-time contractor or whatever, great. If they feel involved, if they feel like they're a part of the business, even better, because then they can grow and scale with you and become a part of it in a more substantial way if things continue to grow.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'd like to now focus a little bit on the other business, Sentient Media. And the reason why I want to bring this up, because it has a great mission, which resonates quite strongly. The moment you open the website, you read it, you really click and feel attached to what organization is doing. And that made me think how this can be applied to freelance business, like how a solo entrepreneur can project the mission, societal mission in what he or she does. Any ideas or recommendations?
Yeah, sure. So like with Sentient Media, Sentient Media started it's been 3 years now. And I was introduced to the founder of Sentient Media. His name is Mikko. He's from Finland. He lives in San Francisco. He used to work at Google. I was introduced to him through this guy named Glenn Greenwald. People might know who he is. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. He broke the Edward Snowden story. He's based in Brazil. I'm friends with him. I work on some projects with Glenn. He introduced me to a guy. I pitched an idea to Glenn because Glenn is also a vegan, and I had this idea of kind of creating this essentially like a site, like a database of highly educational, in-depth information about all things animal related. So factory farming, industrial animal agriculture, ocean pollution from industrial fishing, just all these different ideas creating like one main source of information, because when I would do searches about these different things and different keywords related to animal agriculture in general, the information was really scattered, and a lot of it was from like the BBC or like articles from, you know, legacy media outlets from like 2016. There wasn't anything like super current or super educational, and I saw a gap because it's not hard to do something like that. So I pitched him that idea, not for him to do it because he's a journalist and that's not his, like that's not what, you know, the idea wasn't to like get me and Glenn to like make the site together. I just wanted to hear his thoughts, and he connected me with a buddy of his who, you know, is a documentary filmmaker, who connected me with Miko. And when I spoke to Miko, they had just started Sentient Media, and his idea was trying to get more stories into the mainstream media about animal agriculture and factory farming and how it impacts the environment, animals, human health, you know, all these different things. But nobody was really answering the emails because nobody knew who Sentient Media was because it was brand new. So I was like, all right, well, what we need to do is just create great information, you know, following best SEO practices, going really in depth, creating like this amazing content strategy. It's going to take longer, but eventually when somebody at the New York Times is researching a story to talk about whatever it might be, they'll see us and then they'll ask us questions. And because Miko worked at Google, he understood search very well. So it was just kind of like, you know, a natural thing for us to partner on that project. And it worked. I mean, just like last year alone, we got over 30 million impressions in Google from, you know, organic search related to all of these different things, whether it's plant-based food or, you know, factory farming or animal testing or animal trafficking or any of these things. There's not like one specific area within that niche or within that cause. It's just very broad. So we just kind of went really in depth. And because we started focusing on SEO and creating this long form content, we started ranking for all that stuff, but it also helped us start ranking for the reporting that we do and like the news content that we do. So it ranks higher at Google News and Apple News, and we started generating traffic from all these different places because we had a strong site that ranks well and has that authority in Google.
It seems to me we just discovered a little formula here. So first you have to have a niche, right? And I'm pretty sure, like if you, for all of you, if you think of ideas that you have in your head, probably you already found a niche. So just keep discovering and, you know, developing that. Then partnerships is the key, right? A good partner who complements your skills with something that you need to have additional to run your business.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, teamwork is always key. I mean, you always need to have a good team. You know, at the top level.
Marketing.
I'm sorry?
Digital marketing is the third.
Yeah, digital marketing helps. Absolutely. But I mean, you know, you just having the right people who understand, you know, the mission of the nonprofit or the mission of the business, who understand who the audience is, like that's where it can get tricky. But I mean, like with Sentient Media, for example, our target audience isn't vegans. Vegans are already vegans. Like I don't care if they're reading our content. I want people who consume animal products every day to read our content and learn more about it. I'm not like a preachy militant vegan who like yells at people and throws fake blood at people on the street. I hate that. I think that's ridiculous. I would rather educate people and let them take their own journey. So, you know, just one example, which I love and think is, you know, one of my favorite examples. We created an article about poultry farming, chicken farming, and it was just maybe like 2,500 or 3,000 words long, like very in depth, talking about all the different aspects of it. And now, depending on where you're searching from, because everybody's search results are different, now it outranks Purdue and Tyson, which are the two biggest chicken producers in the world. So on page 1 of Google, again, this might be different for everybody searching, but Sentient Media's article about poultry farming outranks the two biggest chicken companies on the planet. So, I mean, understanding who you're trying to reach is really key because you need to understand what they're trying to find. You know, you need to understand what they're searching for, and then you need to present that to them in a way that's educational. Because when people want to learn something, like if you hear about something, if you've never heard of the term factory farming before and you hear about it on the news, you're not going to go to Instagram to learn more about factory farming. You're going to go to Google. You're going to go to Google and say, what is factory farming? You're not going to Facebook to do that. You're going to Facebook to see pictures of cute cats and see what your high school girlfriend ate for lunch. Like, you're not going there to learn, you're going there to distract yourself. If you want to learn something, you go to Google. So if you're creating educational content, whether it's about factory farming or freelancing or whatever, like then you're able to put yourself in front of people who are seeking information instead of trying to get people's attention on social media where they're super distracted anyways.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I really, really love this advice and your personal story. Well, as time comes to the end of the session, it's been very insightful, Grant. Thanks a lot for sharing.
My pleasure.